Hi everyone, welcome to the English Vault. Today, we follow Roberto Clemente, a baseball legend whose greatness did not stop at the edge of the field. His story is about talent, pride, service, and a final act of courage that made the world remember not only how he played, but who he chose to be. Chapter 1. A Boy Who Played with Hunger. Roberto Clemente was born in Carolina, Puerto Rico, in 1934, in a family that understood work before it understood comfort. His father worked in sugarcane fields and helped manage workers. His mother cared for the family with strength, faith, and discipline. Roberto grew up seeing that survival often came from effort repeated every day. He was not born into ease. He knew heat, chores, limited money, and the kind of childhood where dreams had to share space with responsibility. But even as a boy, he had a gift for movement. He could run with unusual grace. He could throw with force. He could see a ball in the air and understand where his body needed to be before the ball arrived. Baseball became more than a game. It became a language of possibility. In the streets and fields of Puerto Rico, Roberto learned rhythm, competition, and pride. He played with whatever space he could find. He learned to trust his arm, his legs, and his instincts. He learned that talent can open a door, but only discipline keeps the door from closing. His early coaches and teammates saw something rare. Roberto did not simply want to be good. He wanted to be complete. He wanted to hit, run, defend, throw, and compete with the whole body. Even then, he carried a seriousness that made people notice him. He played with joy, but also with purpose. That purpose was visible in the way he practiced ordinary details. A throw was not only a throw, a swing was not only a swing. Each movement was a chance to prepare for a future that had not yet opened, but that he seemed to feel coming. Puerto Rico shaped him deeply. He did not treat his island as a place to escape. It was home, identity, music, family, and memory. Later, when fame came, he would not allow success in the United States to erase where he came from. He carried Puerto Rico with him like a flag inside his chest. That inner flag gave him a kind of emotional balance. When praise came, he remembered the people who had shaped him. When insult came, he remembered that his worth had not been created by the insult and could not be destroyed by it. He was learning, long before fame, that identity can become a source of strength when the world tries to turn it into a weakness. That mattered because the world he entered was not always ready to respect him fully. A young Roberto could dream of stadiums and championships, but he would also have to face language barriers, stereotypes, and a sports culture that sometimes wanted his talent without wanting his full humanity. The boy with the powerful arm would need more than athletic skill. He would need dignity. Chapter 2. The Weight of Being Seen. Roberto Clemente reached professional baseball with extraordinary ability, but ability did not protect him from misunderstanding. When he joined the Pittsburgh Pirates, he arrived as a young Puerto Rican player in a country still struggling with race, language, and identity. He had to prove himself on the field while defending himself off it. Reporters sometimes mocked his English. Some changed his words or treated his accent as a joke. They could see his speed, his arm, and his batting talent, but they did not always see the intelligence behind his seriousness. Roberto felt this deeply. He knew that a person can be praised and still be reduced. He also knew that language pressure can make a talented person feel trapped between two worlds. If he spoke carefully, some people called him distant. If he spoke emotionally, some people called him difficult. That double standard followed many Latino players of his generation. Roberto did not solve it by pretending it was not there. He faced it with pride, even when pride cost him popularity. This is one of the hidden tensions in his story. Many fans saw the highlights, the line drives, the impossible throws, the graceful catches near the wall. But behind those moments was a man trying to be recognized with accuracy. He did not want to be treated as a colorful character. He wanted to be treated as a complete professional and a complete human being. His pride was sometimes misunderstood as anger. His honesty was sometimes described as difficult. When he spoke about pain or unfair treatment, some people wanted him to be quiet and just play. But Roberto understood something important. Silence can make unfairness look normal. He was not willing to make himself smaller so others could feel comfortable. At the same time, he carried physical pain. His body often hurt. He dealt with back problems, injuries, and exhaustion. The public saw a superstar. The private man often had to prepare himself through discomfort, treatment, and mental discipline. Greatness did not mean the absence of pain. Sometimes greatness meant playing through pain, without letting pain decide the size of his life. The early years were therefore not only about becoming a better player, they were about becoming a stronger person under observation. Every season tested him. Every mistake could be judged through prejudice. Every success had to fight for proper respect. Roberto was learning that visibility can be both a gift and a burden. Chapter 3. An arm that changed the field. On the field, Roberto Clemente was unforgettable. He did not move like a player who was simply completing a task. He moved with elegance and urgency at the same time. In right field, he turned defense into drama. Runners learned that testing his arm could become a public mistake. His throws were famous because they seemed to travel with purpose. A ball hit into the corner could become a moment of danger for the other team. Roberto would gather it, plant his feet, and send it across the field with astonishing speed and accuracy. The crowd could feel the possibility before the ball arrived. There is something beautiful about a defensive player who changes behavior. Runners did not only react to Roberto after he threw the ball. They thought about him before they ran. His presence affected decisions that never appeared in a box score. That is a special kind of greatness. The ability to influence the game even when the ball is not in your hand. But his defense was not only strength. It was attention. He studied hitters, runners, angles, wind, grass, walls, and situations. He understood that the game rewarded the player who saw a second earlier than everyone else. His athleticism was brilliant, but his preparation made it sharper. At the plate, he became one of the great hitters of his era. He could drive the ball to different parts of the field. He could adjust. He could fight through difficult counts. He was not a machine. He was an artist with discipline, using instinct and repetition until instinct looked effortless. The numbers eventually became historic. Batting titles, gold gloves, all-star selections, a most valuable player award, and the respect of opponents who knew exactly how dangerous he was. Yet numbers alone cannot explain his presence. Some athletes change a scoreboard. Others change the emotional temperature of a game. Roberto could do both. Children watched him and saw a possibility. Puerto Rican and Latin American fans saw someone who carried their identity into a major American stage without apology. Teammates saw a competitor who demanded seriousness. Opponents saw a player who could punish a careless decision. He made excellence feel alive. Still, the deeper story was not that Roberto was talented. The deeper story was that he refused to separate talent from responsibility. He believed that if the game gave him a platform, then the platform had a purpose beyond applause. Fame was not only something to enjoy, it was something to use. Chapter 4. Greatness Under Pressure. By the 1960s, Roberto Clemente had become one of baseball's most respected players, but respect did not arrive all at once. He had to build it through seasons of performance and persistence. He had to keep showing the truth of his ability until even people who underestimated him had to adjust their vision. The 1960 World Series gave him a stage, and the Pittsburgh Pirates shocked the powerful New York Yankees, Roberto contributed with steady hitting and fierce play. For many fans, it was proof that he belonged in the biggest moments. For Roberto, it was another step in a longer fight to be understood. Then came 1966, when he won the National League Most Valuable Player award. That honor mattered, not because he needed a trophy to know his value, but because public recognition can correct a public mistake. The league was finally acknowledging what many players already knew. Roberto Clemente was one of the best in the world. Awards can look simple from the outside, but for Roberto, this one carried extra weight. It told young players from Puerto Rico and Latin America that excellence could force open a door. It told fans who already believed in him that their pride had evidence. And it told doubters that style, accent, and origin could not hide the truth forever. But pressure did not disappear after recognition. Sometimes it became heavier. A celebrated athlete is expected to perform like a symbol, not a person. Roberto had to carry expectation from fans, media, teammates, Puerto Rico, and his own inner standard. He wanted to represent his people with excellence, and that desire could be both beautiful and demanding. In 1971, he reached another peak. The Pirates returned to the World Series, and Roberto played with unforgettable brilliance. Against the Baltimore Orioles, he hit, defended, and led with quiet fire. He was named World Series Most Valuable Player. On a global stage, he showed the full range of his game. That victory was not only athletic, it was cultural. Roberto spoke proudly in Spanish after the championship, sending love to his parents and to Puerto Rico. In that moment, millions heard more than a celebration. They heard a man refusing to leave his language and roots outside the moment of triumph. For many viewers, that was the real power. He was not asking permission to belong. He was belonging fully. The boy from Carolina had become a champion, but he had not traded identity for acceptance. He had expanded the meaning of acceptance itself. Chapter 5. Service Beyond the Game. Roberto Clemente's humanitarian work was not a public relations detail. It was central to who he was. He believed that people with visibility had a duty to respond when others were suffering. He did not see charity as distance. He saw it as relationship. He visited hospitals, helped young people, supported communities, and spoke about the needs of the poor across Latin America and the Caribbean. He understood that many people admired athletes from far away. He wanted that admiration to become practical help. If a child looked up to him, he wanted the child to receive more than a signature. This came from memory. Roberto had not forgotten what it meant to come from a working family. He knew how easily the poor could be ignored until disaster made them visible for a few days. He knew how systems could fail people who did not have power. His compassion had muscle because it was connected to experience. He also had a clear sense of justice. When people were mistreated, he did not hide behind fame. He spoke. Sometimes that made him uncomfortable to institutions that preferred quiet celebrities. But Roberto's public life was never only about being liked. It was about being useful. In Puerto Rico, he dreamed of building a sports city for young people, a place where children could develop discipline, health, confidence, and hope. He knew sports could teach more than competition. It could teach teamwork, self-respect, and the feeling that the future was not already closed. There is a powerful lesson in that dream. Roberto understood that talent without opportunity can disappear. Many gifted children never become visible because nobody builds a path for them. He wanted to build paths. He wanted the next generation to have more structure, more support, and more belief. He was also practical about hope. Hope was not only a feeling in his mind. Hope needed fields, coaches, equipment, mentors, and adults who cared enough to organize. Roberto's service had this practical quality. He did not only say that children mattered, he imagined the places and systems that could prove it to them. By the early 1970s, he was no longer only a baseball star. He was a bridge between achievement and service. His fame gave him reach. His conscience gave him direction. And when a major earthquake struck Nicaragua in 1972, that conscience would lead him into the final and most remembered act of his life. Chapter 6: The Final Flight. In December 1972, a devastating earthquake hit Nicaragua. Thousands suffered. Families needed food, clothing, medicine, and shelter. Roberto Clemente immediately wanted to help. He organized relief supplies because he understood that delay could cost lives. But he also heard troubling reports. Some aid was not reaching the people who needed it most. Supplies could be stolen, delayed, or misdirected. Roberto believed that if he personally accompanied the shipment, his presence might help protect the aid and make sure it reached suffering families. This decision reveals the heart of his character. He could have donated money and stayed safe. He could have offered a public statement and allowed others to manage the risk. Instead, he chose presence. He believed that responsibility sometimes means going where comfort tells you not to go. That choice was consistent with the man people close to him already knew. Roberto did not like help that was only symbolic. He wanted to know whether food arrived, whether medicine arrived, whether families were actually reached. His compassion was personal, but it was also exact. He wanted results, not only sympathy. On December 31, 1972, Roberto boarded a cargo plane carrying relief supplies from Puerto Rico to Nicaragua. The plane was overloaded and unsafe. Shortly after takeoff, it crashed into the ocean. Roberto Clemente was only 38 years old. The news was painful across Puerto Rico, Pittsburgh, Latin America, and the baseball world. People mourned not only a player, but a man whose life had become a promise. The final flight was heartbreaking because it matched the pattern of his life. He died trying to serve. It is important to tell this moment with care. His death was not a spectacle. It was a human loss. A wife lost her husband. Children lost their father. A community lost a protector. Baseball lost one of its most complete artists. The world lost a person who believed fame should move towards suffering, not away from it. That final act changed how many people understood Roberto Clemente. His career was already worthy of history, but his service gave the history a deeper moral shape. The question was no longer only, how great was he as a player? The question became, what did he do with greatness when people needed him? Chapter 7: What Remains After Greatness. Roberto Clemente was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in a special vote soon after his death. The usual waiting period was waived because his life and loss were extraordinary. The honor recognized his baseball excellence, but it also acknowledged the force of his character. His legacy continues because it speaks to more than sports fans. It speaks to anyone who has ever wondered what success is for. Is success only personal comfort? Is it only applause, money, or records? Roberto's life suggests a harder answer. Success becomes larger when it becomes service. He also changed representation. For Puerto Rican and Latin American players, he was not simply a star who happened to come from the region. He was a proud pioneer who insisted on dignity. He showed that identity did not have to be softened to fit a narrow image of greatness. That influence continued through players who came after him. Every time a young athlete spoke Spanish with pride, honored family roots, or used fame to support a community, a part of Roberto's legacy was alive. He helped widen the imagination of what a baseball hero could sound like, look like, and stand for. That matters for every learner of courage. Many people are asked to leave part of themselves behind in order to be accepted. Roberto did the opposite. He brought his language, his pride, his island, his pain, his discipline, and his compassion with him. He did not become smaller to become famous. His story also teaches that excellence and kindness are not opposites. Some people imagine ambition as selfish and service as soft. Roberto showed another path. He competed fiercely, he trained seriously, he demanded respect, and still, he made room in his life for people who could not repay him. The most inspiring part is not that he was perfect. No human life is perfect. The inspiring part is that he kept asking a better question. Not simply, how can I be admired? But, how can I be useful? That question can change the meaning of a career, a community, and a life. So when we remember Roberto Clemente, we remember the arm, the swing, the trophies, and the championships. But we also remember the relief supplies, the hospital visits, the pride in his voice, and the final decision to go where help was needed. That is why his name still carries warmth. If this story stays with you, let it be, because Roberto Clemente made greatness feel human. He showed that the highest form of success is not only to rise above others, but to lift others as you rise. And inside the English vault, that is the kind of story worth carrying forward.